Hi, I'm Chuck Dorsett for Weaver Leather Supply. I've always believed that motivation is one of the ways that a lot of us get into leathercraft. We see a product out there, maybe it's out of our budget, may not be made anymore, or we see something, we like it, we want to make some changes. How about we make it ourselves? Well, my motivation here, I need a drumstick pouch. Now I say drumstick pouch, but for our chefs, woodworkers, great tool or knife pouch, let's just make it ourselves, and we're going to do exactly that. All right, so anything I use in this video, weaverleathersupply.com, or check below. We've got links, going to take you straight to the website. Also, if you want to know when our videos release, just click your notifications. You'll know exactly when these come out. So let's step over to our pattern table, get started. We've got digital pics of our pattern. We'll look at that shortly, but we're going to talk about what we're doing. First off, it's going to help everything fall into place. Now it's going to look like a complicated pattern. It really isn't. It's a lot of steps, but they're all very simple steps. All we're doing, we've got an exterior leather. We're going to sew in drum key pockets. We'll talk more about that. And on our interior, our liner, we're going to drop in our stick pockets there. We're going to marry those two together. Then up here, we're going to drop in an overlay. But we're going to leave a loop right there for lace. For us drummers, we can open that up and hang that on the lugs on our floor tom. But on that point, if we're going to use this for a tool pouch, we can open that up, hang it wherever we're working. And right here, we've got a pocket for a drum key, smaller pocket. But again, if we're going to go with a tool pouch, what we can do is extend this pocket. We can extend it to a very deep pouch, or we could do multiple pouches. All kinds of ways to make this our own, but also prototype. So we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to go a little bit wider. That's going to hold 3 sets of sticks on each side. Right here, we're going to add 2 billets to keep that closed. Now, our sticks, typically 16 inches long, so we're going to go 18 on our pouch. All right, so we got a feel for what we're doing. Let's step over to our digital pick. On our exterior, our outside leather, 18 inches by 11. We've got our 2 key pockets there. We've got measurements for those on our last pattern. We've got our overlays. We're going to bring those down 5 inches, and we're going to give this a 1-inch spine. Over to our liner. Very simple pattern here. We're just going to drop in our stick pockets, 5 by 7 inches, bottom right, bottom left corner, and over to our pockets. On this, we're going to have to cut 2 of everything here. Up to you. We don't have to have 2 pockets. But for our overlay, 10 by 5 inches. On our pockets for the sticks, 5 inches by 7. We'll need 2 small billets, 2 3/4 by 3/4. Right here, we're going to come in 1/2 of an inch for our rivet, but then we're going to leave 3/4 of an inch there for our snap. Give us a little tab. And then our small key pocket, 4 inches by 4 inches, and then our flap, 4 inches by 2.5. All right, so one more point. Isn't that leather cool? This is going to look nice. All right, so let's step over to our main table, talk some leather. We've got a tough decision to make here, but it's not critical because we can make more than one of these. But for the video, I tend to try not to go with very dark colors. Well, for this video, this is my absolute choice. This is our exotic embossed, and it's beautiful. This is the brown. Right here, we've got our black Redrock. Now, when we separate these two out, this brown is so deep it's almost black until we put it next to black. So it's not as close a color match as I like. Over here, actually even the names are the same. So this is our exotic embossed. It's the dark teal, Redrock dark teal. What a nice match. Now, we're going to go with the darker leather, but for the majority of this, we're actually going to be working with our Redrock, so it's not going to be tough to see. All right, so let's reset here, cut our leather. Our exotic embossed, a little bit hard to see, a little bit dark, but really, we just have to cut our main body and 2 pockets, then we jump over to the Redrock. It's a little bit easier to see, but a couple of points here. First off, notice this beautiful design. Love the embossed. But right here, we've got what would typically be the belly on our reptile. Just so happens, we've got the perfect width to get that design right in the middle of both patterns. Now, when we cut this black leather, the bane of all leather workers, for marking, we've got one of the best inventions in leathercraft ever. This is a marking pen, and it rubs right off. So what we'll do, let's get this centered. Now, we're going to cut this from our top grain. If we don't have our marking pen, great purchase. But if we don't, we could always flip this over, simply mark the back in black ink. We can see that, but it gets a little confusing. And I'll explain why here very shortly. So let's get this piece cut out. And we've got that marked. So, as always, new blade, sharp blade every time, but particularly with our embossed, because we've got a bumpy layer on top of that. So let's get this, do our best to try to split that line right on our mark. Now, if we don't fully separate the leather, like right there, let's take our knife, and this part of our blade, we never use that. So let's just lift that up and lightly cut through. That should separate it easily. Good, we've got that. Now we'll do our round corners once we lay in our liner. So now I need 2 panels at 5 by 7. Well, that's easy enough. Okay, we've got our 2 pockets, our main body. Let's reset here, cut our Redrock. The dark teal in our Redrock, this is going to be a beautiful match to our exotic. So right here, we've got our stick pockets cut. Let's set that aside. Now, on our main body, what I'd like to do, we typically will overcut our liner, we'll glue it down, trim to size. Makes a nice edge. But in this situation, we've got pockets that need to line up. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut one up on our face leather, our exterior, but then I'm going to flop for our backing, for our liner leather, because if we cut 2 up, and I've gone to a lot of trouble to make sure this is square, hard to do on larger panels, but if we're just 1/8 of an inch off down here, if we cut 2 up, what's going to happen when we line these together, both pieces are going to be off. Our liner will be off on one side, our face leather on the other. But if we flop our pattern, even if it's a little bit off, it's going to come together perfectly. So that's the point there. Now, on our Redrock, we can scribe this, easy to see a line. So let's flop our pattern, find a good spot, and then let's scribe this. Okay, easy enough to see. Let's trim this piece out. Okay, main body liner is cut. Let's set that aside. Now, in all of these pieces, we're going to need 2 of each. So I'll scribe in and cut our pockets in our overlay and our small billet. And we've got that. Not bad on the scrap. Okay, so on our overlay, this point will be on the exterior of the project. So on this end, that will be our flap. Let's go with a corner knife. This is the 25mm. Let's just hit these 2 corners. Nice touch on the flap. Okay, next up, we've got our pockets for our pouch, our key pouch. On this, same corner knife, 25mm, and we'll mark for our snap. We've got those. Next up, the flap for our pouch. We'll have the same corner knife, 25mm. Good. Okay, and let's mark for our snap. Last up, our small billets. So let's just mark on these. Nice. Okay, let's punch some holes and set some snaps. We're going to go with Segma snaps on our project. Now, if you're not familiar with these, Little explanation, but everything makes sense. And I love these snaps. In my opinion, these are the easiest snaps to set. So right here, on our cap and our socket, notice the socket, we're going to have a pretty good size hole for that. On the post and the stud, basically a double cap rivet, much smaller hole. So we could go with our heavy duty revolving punch. It's a great tool for us crafters. It's a solid quality tool, replaceable tubes, but the best part, very affordable price, very reasonable. But this largest tube, I'd like to go just a little bit larger for our snap. So right here on our billets, we're going to have a cap with our tab, and then we're going to have a rivet. So with our dry punch, our round hole punch, for our rivet size, I'm going to go with 1/8 of an inch. Good, okay. On this end, let's go up to our 3/16 inch. And you notice I've got these marked. These are the two most common dry punch sizes I use in my shop. So on the end that's going to get our cap, let's go with our larger hole. Okay, we've got those. Now over to our flap. The cap is going to be on our flap, so we're going to need the larger hole here. And on our pocket, we're going to need the smaller hole for the back side. Okay, we've got those. Now, back over to our billets. Let's go with a 3/4 inch round end punch, both ends. Okay, let's set some snaps. Let's start with our flap. So this is part of our 4-piece setter set. We can set rivets, Segma, line 20, and line 24 snaps. It's got this nice anvil. So on our flap, this is going to be our cap. So let's take the socket. We're going to come through from the flesh side and press that through, okay? On our anvil, the cap is going to sit in that second indent. So I'm going to flip this over. Now our setter, we've got two setters here. We've got a post and an inset. The post is going to work on this side. There we go. Yeah, how easy is that? And it looks good. Same on this side. Okay, we've got that set. Now, on our pocket, yeah, since this setter is so anxious to be used, obviously, now we've got our post and our stud. So post going to come through from the flesh side. We're going to flip that over. Now, we can drop that in that last inset, but to me, it's going to look fine where it is. And there we go, there's our stud. So, our other setter, inset here. Same on the other side. Okay, the pouch is ready to go. On our billets, we're going to rivet these onto the main body. The post and the stud will actually be on the body. So all we need here is our cap. Okay, those are set. Let's go prep to do a little sewing. Let's start with our liner side. We've got our stick pockets cut. Now, this is just my opinion, but on our scale pattern here, the scales overlap what I would call the top to the bottom. So to me, that's right side up. Your project, your call. But on this one, I'm going to make sure my scales overlap top to bottom, and we're going to tape this in right there in our corners. So on these two pieces, we're going to need our double-sided tape on both sides. And I love this tape. This is a game changer for us. We don't have to worry about glue. We simply tape that down, peel off the backing, stick it on, and this is oddly strong. So again, tape on all four sides. We could go across the bottom, but not terribly necessary. This has got some pretty good body to it. Okay, we've got that on. Now, the easiest way here is just to scrape back. There we go. On the backing, that should separate the backing from the tape. Okay, and again, let's make sure the scales are right side up, and let's bring this right to the edge. Get that as clean of a meat as we can. Good. Same on this side. Okay, we've got that. Now, over to our exterior leather. Now, over here, our pockets are going to sit right here, and our flap, we're going to tape that in right there. So on our pockets, this leather doesn't have a lot of body to it, so what I'd like to do is put tape on all three sides. Let's make sure we hold that down while we sew it. On our flaps, we're going to tape that a little bit differently. Okay, we've got tape on our pockets. So let's use our square, come right to our corner. We're going to come in 1/2 of an inch and up 1/2 of an inch. So with my square, I can see 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. There we go. Okay, let's press that in. Same on this side. Good. Those are ready to sew. Now, on our flap, our tendency is to put our tape right here, but we need to put it on this side because we're going to tape that down and sew it. There's our flap. So let's add tape, there we go, across our top grain. Now, let's lay this top grain down. Good. And same right here. Very nice, okay? We could absolutely hand sew this, and I almost want to because this one's for me, but I have a Weaver 303, so let's go knock a stitch line into our face leather and our liner. And our 303 has got a great little LED light magnet on the back. We can stick that anywhere. Love all that light. The camera doesn't agree, so we're going to move that back a little bit. We can still see what we're doing. Now on our 303, we're going to go with our 92 thread in black. Cool idea though. We've got this in all kinds of colors. Say we do a turquoise on our black and then a black on our Redrock. That would look nice. But I'm rolling. All right, let's do a little sewing here. So on our liner, all we're doing here, so I'm going to drop in a stitch line on the inside of this pocket and on the inside of this pocket. Good, we've got that side done. Okay, same on the other side. And I love this machine. Look how slow we can go. For those of us that are not production shop sewers, how easy is that? Okay, we're good on this piece. Now let's step over here, because on our facial leather, we're going to sew our pouches. I'll start right here in the middle of our flap. We'll sew around, come back, over sew right there. Okay, our pockets are on. Very good. Let's step back to our main table. We'll glue our two pieces together. We are moving along and our project is looking good thus far. Very nice. So now we're going to adhere our liner to our face leather. We're going to use our S18 contact cement because this is going to make two plies of leather look, feel, and react as one. Now, larger panels. The brush in here, it's going to work for us, but it's going to take a little time. We've got glue spreaders. We can pour our glue across our project and spread out from there. Now I'm going to go with a brush here because we're going with a lighter weight Redrock. Probably very little chance that our glue could wick through, but nonetheless, I'm still going to take my time, use our brush on this lighter weight. Over here, no issue at all. So right here, let's bring that right to the edge of our table. Now when we add glue to this, what I'd like to do, again, since we're not going to trim to size, let's get right to that edge. We don't want this to dog ear over time outside of our stitch line. So let's get that glue right to the edge. Good. And I'm going to do that all the way around, then I'll fill in the center. Good, now we've got our border done. Didn't take much time at all. But one of the reasons I want to pull this right to the edge is I can go right off the edge of my leather without getting glue on our work surface. Because what will happen, we'll get glue there, we'll run our project across it, now we've got glue on the face. With chromes, typically not an issue because they have a top coat already. That glue will dry and we can simply rub it off. But also, we could save some time and simply tape this. But what will happen is when we bend this around, our spine is going to ripple or wrinkle, and we don't want that. So let's just take our time, make sure we've got full coverage. And there we go, we've got good coverage. Didn't take too much time. Let's set this aside, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing with this piece. And very nice, that spreader. Certainly speeds up the process. So we're going to give this about 5, maybe 10 minutes, let that glue set. But another good point, these are silicone, and with our contact cement, let's clean that off immediately so we can keep using it. All right, let's give this 5, maybe 10 minutes. With contact cement, what I'm looking for, looks dry, feels dry, but it's tacky. That's what we want. Now the only downside to contact cement, we get one shot to put this together. That's why we typically overcut our liner, glue, and then trim to size. But also, let's make sure here, pockets down, pockets down. And let's do our best to lay this in to get a good clean edge all the way around. I think we have a pretty good meat all the way around. When we trim to size, it's perfect. But this isn't bad. Okay, let's flip this over because we've got our snaps. Now, with our rollers, we've got the larger and the smaller. These are great, they're weighted. But what I don't want to do here is press down so hard that either my top leather or my backing separates. We don't want that to happen. So let's go a little bit easy with this. And that feels like we've got a good bond. Very nice. Okay, let's go to our round corner punch. Now our pattern calls for the 30mm corner knife. So down here and only on the bottom, And we've got that nice touch. Let's lay in our overlay. We're going to bring our overlay down 5 inches, simply because when we close our pocket, right to the top of that is about 5 inches. So if we come down 5 inches on this side, to me that's very balanced, but it's your project, your call. Go any way you want to. Now, on our overlays, these are 10 inches long. So let's do this. Let's come down from this end, from the flap end, 5 inches, and let's just make a mark. Good, there we go. Now, we're going to tape from here down around our point and back up to that mark on both. Now, this is a much softer leather, so I'd like to add a good bit of tape. Good, we've got that. Now let's take our square. Let's come over 5 inches. Nice. Now, let's take each, and I'm going to butt against my edge, try to get as clean an edge as I can, and I'm going to drop my point right to 5 inches. Good, we've got those laid in. Now, to save us a trip back and forth from the sewing machine, let's go ahead and drop tape across this line to this point so that when we're on our machine, we can peel the backing off, lay this over, tape it, and then sew it where we are. That's all we're doing here. Okay, don't peel the backing off there. All right, let's go do a little more sewing. And back to our 303, and I have to apologize because there is no great camera shot for a sewing machine. But anyway, again, all we're going to do here is we're going to sew down this line and across the point on both. Then we'll come back, sew the main body. Good, we've got our overlays sewn down. So now I'm going to start just inside our top edge here. We're going to sew all the way around our body, and we'll do a back stitch on this side just below the top of our main body. Okay, our last stitch line. We're going to bring our flaps around. We're going to leave enough room there for our lace. And then we're just going to drop in one last stitch across the throat. Now, here's an idea. We sew our overlay and our loop to our exterior leather. Then we simply sew our flaps to our liner leather, leaving this area, inside area, open for sheet music, magazines, whatever we've got. All kinds of ways to make this our own. But we're just going to wrap these around. So with our tape, let's take this off first. Now we could scribe a line a little bit hard to see, but all we're doing here, we just need enough room there for our lace and to be able to hide a knot. So I'm going to square along this edge, drop this piece in, press it down. Good. Notice also too, I'm coming to just about where the bottom of that main part of our overlay is. But right here, all I really need is for these just to be parallel. Good, we've got that. Now let's, with a scribe, a little bit of a hidden edge right there. I'm going to come in about 1/4 of an inch, 3/16. Same on this side. There we go. Now let's scribe a line. Yeah, there we go. There's our stitch line. Very nice. We are almost done here. Let's go at our billets. Let's mark for our billets. So from our pattern, square to our bottom, mark on both sides. Good, we've got that. Let's set our billets. Now on one side, we're just going to have rivets. On the other side, we've got our cap on our billets. So we just need the post and the stud. So let's go with an 1/8 inch round hole for all 4 holes. Okay, let's reset, set our rivets and posts. Neither side is the front, so we can drop in our rivets and our posts on either side. So let's start over here. We're going to go with a double cap rivet, the small, technically 1/4 inch. Let's go with our antique nickel to match our Segma. Now, when we set these, let's make sure we've got the right setter. I've set a rivet with one of these. It was a big mess. Okay, on the other side, we're going to need our post. Good, we've got that. All we have to do is add our lace, do a little cleanup. We're done here. Before we add our lace, what I'd like to do, yeah, there we go, very nice. Let's take a moist rag. I've still got some of our marking pen, and that just comes right off. Let's clean that off where we see it. Yeah, very nice, comes right off, okay? So now, on our lace, at Weaver, we've got a number of options. Most will work, but I always cut my own lace. Most cost-effective way to go. And in fact, this lace is cut from our black Redrock 3 to 4 ounce. And I've cut these about 20 inches long, roughly 3/16 of an inch wide. So let's take our first. Let's slide this through our loop. Good, okay. And now let's tie a square knot. So right over left, circle around, left over right, circle around. Good, there we go. Let's leave that a little bit loose, same on the other side. Okay, we've got that knot. Let's pull these out. As long as we're relatively close on the same length on the tails here, actually that's not bad. So now we're going to slide this knot down into the loop. So let's give that some good tension. Make that knot as small as we can make it. Yeah, there we go. Not bad. Okay, with our knife, let's just trim off our tails. Okay, now let's work our knot down into our loop. So work our top grain out. Well, very nice. That looks good. we have got a good looking project here. I love the combination of the two leathers we picked out. That looks good. So on our sticks, how's our fit here? Very nice, and we have ample room for sticks. That looks good. Okay, how about our closure? And there we are. That is a good looking stick bag. I think the only thing I could be happier with, my stitch line. I am not the machine sewer that I should be, and I almost wish we'd taken the time to hand sew this because that would look nice. Very well done. I think we know who's going to be the envy at every band practice. It's a good looking stick pouch, but at the same time, we've got all kinds of leathers that are going to make great combinations. Pick your leather, pick your design, make it your own, have a great time with it. Good luck with your project.